guys, welcome back. How's it going? It is my different username here, and today I'll be showing off the rifle that has triumphed over the Axis forces during World War II, and is a rifle so iconic it even goes as far as being dubbed the greatest battle implement ever devised. Here we have the M1 Garand battle rifle made out of Lego. So, the M1 Garand, or the M1 Garand, depending on how you want to pronounce it, was the issued service rifle for the US military back in 1936, replacing the older Springfield M1903 bolt-action rifle, and it even still fires the same cartridge of 30-06, just in semi-automatic form. The designer of the rifle, John C. Garand, was working for the Springfield Armory and was put to the task of creating the next rifle for the US military to test back in 1922. He and his first design were put against many other experimental semi-automatic rifles during the 1920s trials, and plenty of iterations came through with successes and failures. But finally, in 1936, after all the trials were finished, we get the final form of the rifle now known as the M1 quote-unquote Garand. And this rifle would serve throughout all of World War II, the Korean War, and even the beginnings of the Vietnam War, and would stay as the US standard issue rifle until it would soon to be succeeded by the M14 later in 1959. It has a lot of history, that's for sure. Okay, so before we continue on more about the rifle itself, I figured a lot of people really want to see if it could do one thing. I mean, come on, it wouldn't be an M1 Garand if it couldn't clip eject, right? So I'll definitely talk more about the clip later on, but for now, I did want to cover the features of the rifle, and this rifle, as you can probably tell from the design, was built in the same principle as my Springfield rifle from before, where the parts of the gun are built within a certain width and shift in size as you go down or up the rifle. And under all that is the trigger group, which was pretty tricky to even get where it's at right now. I wanted to keep it within 2 studs wide, while at the same time incorporating its safety feature, and to make this all work was a little odd, and I had to use some rather unconventional techniques just to get this to even remotely work. But given more time, I could have probably built it to functionally act as an actual safety, but at least the design does swivel like the real life version, and the whole piece in the back shows off what would normally be its disassembly feature, where the entire trigger group would actually be removed. But on my model, it doesn't actually come apart, because trust me when I say it, it would be pretty messy to take this gun apart from what we're looking at, so I'm definitely okay with what I have right here. And up next we have the butt stock, and it also resembles that of my Springfield, but does differ when it comes to the butt plate in the back. It features a hinging door piece in which holds 2 different cavities, and each could come equipped with items like this cleaning toolkit, for example, and can hold other items as well, such as these, Skittles? Huh. What else do we have? Looks like we got some money you could hold. A little note that's, pretty cute. And a bayonet. Wow, I wouldn't expect that. And a 1911? Okay, well, this could, definitely hold a lot more than I thought. And, well, besides that, the stock does contain another feature, not from the inside of it, but instead on the outside. And here we have this sling mount piece on the bottom, and if anyone was observant from earlier, you may have already spotted the other 2 mounts from the center and the front of the rifle. And they do in fact have the ability to equip a sling to the whole gun, and is nice to call it a somewhat official Lego sling. However, you probably won't see me throwing this over my shoulder anytime because of just how fragile the design still is. But I must say, it actually does give a nicer look to the rifle, and definitely makes it feel all that more authentic. Authentic in the sense that you could even take the clip for the rifle and slide it into the sling and just have it hang it there, for the sake that after emptying the rifle, you can, instead of reaching for your vest, can just reach forward to grab a new clip and reload using that one, which is super cool. However, for the sake of not wanting to deal with it, I'm actually going to keep the sling off the gun for the rest of the video so we can focus a lot more on the other details. Details like this bolt and receiver assembly, and basically the heart and soul to this build is right here in this one spot. And this part of the rifle was, without a doubt, the most challenging and difficult to make. It isn't perfect by any means, but definitely does get pretty close. I wanted to allow the look of the receiver to not suffer much as far as details go, while at the same time keeping all the functionalities of everything else in check. So, as you saw from the beginning of the vid, you already know that the clip can eject from the magazine portion of the rifle, and this ejection design was not done by me at all, and my inspiration actually came from another person's Garand rifle created by Bryce from Brick Built Replicas on YouTube, where he came up with a genius but simple mechanism where a rubber band on the inside of the rifle adds tension to the clip but allows the bolt to ride over that and hold that tension down so that when the bolt slides back, it releases the clip entirely. So please, check out his video when you get a chance because it is really nice. Anyway, as far as my rifle goes, it was pretty difficult to create a balance between the size of the bolt to fit the whole clip within the gun, while also making sure that it doesn't completely break every single time I use it while loading. On the inside, you could see my version of the rubber band, and I really wanted to make it difficult to see that because of just how distracting rubber bands in a LEGO model can be. And the same also goes for the bolt rubber band, which is actually hidden up in the front. And if we take a look at the clip itself, and I must add that, yes, this right here is a clip, and the inside mechanism in the Garand that holds the clip is the magazine. Anyway, this clip contains the 30-06 rounds, which, I'll be honest, I've actually had to shorten up quite a bit due to the fact that the clip part without the rounds actually takes up space where the rims of the bullets would normally rest. And the clip was built to add what I call a stacking effect, where it resembles that of the look of cartridges being staggered on top of one another, which you can see on the clip in real life. The clip was also carefully built to stay within 3 studs of width, so I can allow the whole part to be inserted into the 5-stud receiver, and the loading process is essentially what you see here on screen, which is not at all as dangerous as the real-life loading of the gun. There's so much tension in my model that there really is no chance to get the dreaded Garand thumb, where the bolt can accidentally ride over the clip and catch your thumb while loading the rifle. So it's really impossible to get caught in. Things that I've added to make loading the rifle really easy is the addition to actually being able to lock the bolt back, not using a mechanism in the back part of the rifle, but actually something in the front, where part of the upper handguard can shift slightly downward and can catch the arm of the bolt, holding it in place and being able to release it as soon as it's lifted. This was essentially my way of making a lock-in design which was super easy to get, and another aspect to this is the fact that you can rest the clip onto the rubber band and slide the bolt forward, holding it all into this one position where, just like the real-life model, you can load individual rounds into the clip if you don't want to completely eject the clip as a whole, and it was a nice detail I just wanted to replicate. Okay, it was a lot of stuff to showcase here, really, but I wanted to make this part of the rifle as accurate as possible, and I wish I had the ability to maybe lock the clip into the rifle and then have the bolt move forward when it's fully seated, or just something like that. I'm not sure, but I must say I really do like what we have here already. And if we move up towards the front, we could take a look at the end of the handguard as well as the barrel and gas tube. On the bottom of the gas tube, we could see the bayonet lug and how the gas tube actually stays exposed and is seen to stretch out over towards the center of the rifle, which is a pretty small detail that I'm not sure a lot of people really know about. Also, you may have noticed this small crease along the wall of the handguard, and that's there because of the upside down technique that was used to create this open bottom effect for the gas tube. You can even see how I used jumper plates to help transition the widths on the inside of the rifle, and the only other feature here is the front post sight, which will actually help us move on to the iron sights for this rifle. And these sights were a little tricky to get right as well, which I'm pretty sure if anyone has seen me actually streaming the build for this would definitely understand what I'm talking about. The front post sight was super easy to build, but the rear sight was pretty hard to get right initially, and even created a lot of potential problems with the bolt area. Now though, the two sights create what I consider a really great similarity between these and the real life sight pictures, but there is actually another choice of acquisition rather than the iron sights themselves, and here we have the M1C Garand. So, the M1C Garand is the evolution of the standard infantry rifle that transfers itself into a marksman role and allows the user to take shots at targets over farther distances than what normal infantry could possibly reach, while still being able to utilize the regular action of the M1. And this rifle comes equipped with this rail system piece that is actually not attachable by any means, but instead comes permanently placed onto the left side of the receiver and is used to clamp down the scope that does come with the rifle, which is the M82 telescope. And this was the standard scope that came from the Springfield Armory around the time of 1944. It was relatively low range, running at about 2.5 power, and would essentially clamp onto the rail piece by sliding back into the rail and having the two side mounts locking it back into place. At least, that was for the real gun. On my model, it's easy to replicate this action, but in reality, all you would need to do is just gently place it down onto the studs from the other side, and the scope would remain firmly in place. From this point, you can aim down the scope and see a multitude of crosshairs that could be used within these scopes, but I actually just went with my traditional crosshair using the turntable plate piece. And what makes this scope so useful for the M1 is the fact that in a pinch, you could actually transfer over to the regular iron sights just by shifting your aim slightly to the right. And obviously, since the scope is more towards the left side, it does allow the rifle to still properly load and unload itself. And that was the M1C, a fairly competent rifle, but may not fare compared to regular rifles solely dedicated to marksmanship. But we actually have more in store for this gun, and it's actually something that could be utilized by regular infantrymen to clear certain areas out. Here, we have the M7 grenade launcher and its MK2 rifle grenade. So, the M7 grenade launcher is the external tube attachment built for the M1 Garand and allows it to fire self-propelled grenades towards enemy lines from distances as far as 250 yards away. And the way this model is attached to the Garand is by simply sliding it over the barrel of the gun and then locking it down from the bayonet lug area. At least, that's how it's done on the real model. On my gun, it's almost similar except that my version actually comes in two different pieces, the barrel and the plunger. But once they're attached, it cuts off access between the barrel and the gas system, allowing any pressure fired from the chamber area to shoot completely through the barrel and nowhere else. Essentially, a really easy way of turning your Garand into a bolt-action rifle. Now, if we turn it over to the other part of this build, which is the M1A2 rifle grenade, or also known as the MK2 rifle grenade adapter, and this was one of the choices available for soldiers to use as a lethal high explosive against enemy soldiers, machine gun turrets, or really anything needed for offensive purpose. It's basically a torpedo that can fire your hand grenade, and to make this build even more authentic, I actually ended up building this MK2 grenade right here to use with the adapter, and it basically works just like a regular grenade would, where you could pull the pin up top, and then once the tension from the spoon is released, the grenade would become live. Just messing with you. Alright. Anyway, once you have the grenade pin back in place, we can clamp it down onto the adapter. Of course. Anyway, how to find a whole new grenade and put it on a new adapter piece. And now we would be ready to shoot, and in order to do that, first we would need to put the gun into safety, and then unload the original M-block clip from the rifle, and replace it with this M30 blank round with crimped head, and load that into the chamber, close the bolt, grab our adapter tube, and then slide it over the M7. Once there, we could hopefully not die doing this, and then come back to the rifle to disengage the safety, and now the weapon is ready to be fired in this configuration. And I gotta say, it's quite a few steps, to have to set something up like this, and when you play something like Call of Duty, you just gotta see that it just really doesn't get the whole process right. I mean, you just slap the grenades on like that, it's really not that realistic at all. And honestly, this whole setup is just so unbelievably dangerous to use. It's insane to know that this is what our boys had to use back in the day. And since we have some time, I figured I would meme around a little bit and just slap literally everything onto the gun. And I'll just say right now that this is really heavy and obviously would never work in real life, but that's why it's amazing to have this all in Lego form. So we could change it back to normal and never do that again. And overall, I want to get across that this M1 Garand really wasn't a walk in the park and actually took a lot of time to get right. Not 3 months exactly, but that's another video discussion just waiting. And at least seeing the change from the original Garand that I've made compared to now is really nice, but even with everything that I have made in this video, I feel like there were still plenty of aspects that I could have made at least a little bit better or just different, but considering the amount of time that it took to even get this video out, I figured that we're good with what we have right here, and I hope you all have enjoyed the video as well. So, if you guys want to download the LDD file for this M1 Garand, there should be a link set up in the description down below. Also, subscribe if you guys want to see more epic LEGO creations such as this, like, favorite, and comment if you have enjoyed, and as always, thanks for watching.